Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the second day of the Brazil Climate Summit. My name is Felipe Pfeffer, and I'm an MBA student at Columbia Business School. Yesterday, we deep dive on the Brazilian challenges and opportunities related to the current race to net zero in several sectors: agriculture, forests, energy, and hard-to-abate sectors, among others. We talked about our strengths, weaknesses, what else needs to be done sector by sector. We also touched on the green finance discussion, which is a central enabler. We talked a lot about people and how important it is to maintain a social lens on everything we do. Finally, across panels, we identified many areas in which collaboration is key and should be strengthened. Today, we want to think big, think about Brazil as a whole. The big question is, what do we need to do as a nation to use this global context of a race towards net zero to foster a new development model that can bring prosperity, reduces inequality, and regenerates nature? We will start the day talking about how to build a good plan to unlock Brazil's potential. Then, we will approach the collaboration-competition paradox. Where shall we compete? Where to collaborate? How to do both simultaneously? We will also touch on our role to foster collaboration as we prepare ourselves to host COP30. We will close the day with a very special guest who will talk more about the importance of stakeholders, action, and how companies can thrive by regenerating the planet. We will have two panels in Portuguese, so if anyone needs translation, they are offered right outside on the second floor. And so now, to start the day, I invite Thomas Trebat, Director of the Columbia Global Center in Rio de Janeiro, who will show us his work with multiple stakeholders in Brazil, an opportunity for collaboration, and continue the conversation we're having here. To join Thomas, we also invite Waafa El-Sadr, Executive Vice President of Columbia Global, and Jeffrey Shaman, Interim Dean of Columbia Climate School. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It doesn't seem adequate, the thanks I'm expressing quickly, but I'm very happy to have all of you here, welcoming you to, in a sense, to Columbia University, which I'm very proud and happy to do. This theme, I'd like to think, is more about collaboration, Luciana, than it is about competition, and collaboration broadly understood between this university, this complex university, and many stakeholders in Brazil, and with the Brazilian private sector, government authorities. I think collaboration, as Luciana put it so well yesterday, is the key to Brazil's success as a global climate leader in the race to net zero. I represent, I'll speak first before turning over to Waafa and Dean Shaman of the Climate School, just to tell you a little bit about the Global Center in Rio, where I have had the great privilege of living, quase virei carioca no processo, for the last 11 years. Columbia has a history that almost can be measured in centuries with Brazil, but our physical presence in the country is only 11 years old. The Rio Global Center, which is really my privilege to direct, is one of 11 centers that Columbia maintains around the world. It's part of an organization known as Columbia Global, which Waafa, Professor Waafa will tell us about in just a moment. Columbia Global advances major initiatives across this entire university. And as I say, it's a complex undertaking, this university, to advance knowledge to address global challenges. And the case in point today is obviously climate change. Our engagement with Brazil has deepened recently, I'm happy to say, and a little intimidated to say at the same time. We've culminating in March 2023, we launched something known as the Climate Hub Rio within the Global Center in Rio, Climate Hub Rio in March 2023. It's part of our Global Center Brazil's commitment to Colombia's determination, Colombia's mission, that climate change is a mission of all of Colombia. So if it's a mission of all of Colombia, it's a mission of the Columbia Global Center in Rio as well. We've achieved much in the last 6 months. Don't have time to tell you much about it, but that includes this conference, these last 2 days, and the conference last year, as we seek to bring Brazil and the lessons from Brazil to the community here at Columbia University and through our presence here to New York City and to the world. With seed funding, we have initial seed funding for our Climate Hub Rio, and that comes from the city of Rio de Janeiro. Not many cities in the world willing to provide seed money for a venture such as this, the Climate Hub, but the city of Rio with a long vocation, as you all know, dating back to the original Earth Day and Rio Plus 20, the Sustainable Development Goals, a long and honored tradition in Brazil and in the world as a leader in climate and sustainability. We also have support from generous donors, including those from the Columbia Alumni Association, one of Columbia's largest in Brazil, one of Columbia's largest and most active alumni associations. So what is the Climate Hub? Hard to explain, but it's a flexible, I like to say democratic, platform to foster collaboration with Brazil stakeholders on climate change through research, education, networking, convening, in all of those different forms to make a difference and to consolidate Brazil's role as a leader in climate change. So we think the Climate Hub, our hope, our vision is it's a blueprint for collaboration between the university and Brazilian stakeholders, including, particularly in this audience, the Brazilian private sector, as we join together to point the way to net zero goals. Therefore, I emphasize once again, we're looking for collaboration and partnerships. Looking ahead, as I finish my own introductory remarks, we have launched already 6 or 7 research programs involving Columbia researchers, faculty and researchers, scientists here at the university with counterparts in Brazil. And someone said it best yesterday, one of Brazil's greatest strengths is its universities and the many brilliant people working in them. So it's a pleasure for us to be able to seed some additional context between our great faculty and research and their counterparts in Brazil. So you'll be seeing a number of research projects rolling out. Public events will be part of all of them to disseminate the knowledge that is generated. We also plan to be helping the city of Rio as the host city for the G20, in which climate finance will be an important subject. And by the way, the connection between climate finance and development finance and the SDG goals will be an important part of what we're doing. As additional financing becomes available and as our Climate Hub grows, and it will grow, we'll be looking at different areas of Brazil, the Amazon in particular, and focusing on really the critical themes, climate finance, carbon markets, critical infrastructure, and so forth. So lots of plans, but also some encouragement from recent achievements, and I'm glad to have a chance to talk to you about it this morning. So we welcome the chance to partner with you, put comments in our app. If you'd like contact here, that app is very useful for that. But I think I'd like to finish, Waafa and Jeff, by a lesson by one of our speakers yesterday mentioned that Brazil has many problems. It's a large emitter. It has to confront problems of climate change, but it also fundamentally holds lessons for the rest of the world. With its many advantages. So enough for me, and I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Waafa El-Sadr, the Executive Vice President of Columbia University. Waafa, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. It's great to be here, and welcome to all of you to our home here at the forum. And I happen to have been in Brazil, in Rio, a few months ago and celebrated the 10th anniversary of our Global Center in Rio with a very big cake and a lot of joy and celebration, as well as also attended the remarkable launch of the Climate Hub in Rio at the Global Center, which was also quite an amazing event that really demonstrated the ethos behind what we're trying to do here. And that is by bringing together diversity of different stakeholders, not just academia, but also reaching far and wide to corporate sector, to community partners, and many, many others. To come together to try to work on major challenges that we face as a global community. So it was a great event that was exemplified how the focus that our focus on major challenges, but also the how we want to do it. And it was wonderful to see in evidence the articulation of the how in terms of the interdisciplinarity, in terms of the partnerships, in terms of the collaborations, and so on. I'll tell you a bit about Columbia Global. It's established here as an organization at Columbia University, and the goal is to pull together the resources and the expertise of the university with the goal of working in partnerships around the world to tackle some of the major challenges that we all face. And I think one of the most, the things that we all acknowledge is one of those major challenges is climate, obviously, and the challenges of climate and climate change. And we recognize that in order to tackle any major challenge, it is not going to take one entity. It's not going to take universities alone. It's not going to take people who are within one discipline. It is going to take people working across disciplines. And that's really important and fundamental, is to bring together people who have different disciplines, people who are in the climate space, people who are in the energy space, people who are in behavioral science, people who are in the public health field, is that it's and finance and business and many, many other fields, that it requires us all to come together to identify the solutions and to really reach beyond our own comfort zone, meaning to build those partnerships, to go and establish those partnerships and to be able to tackle major challenges like climate. I think the other important thing to keep in mind is to have all the efforts, and this is something that we value at Columbia Global, is to really focus on what are we trying to achieve and to have metrics. What are we trying to accomplish? And I think we are trying to find solutions. We're trying to hopefully change policies, but we're also hopefully trying to change practices. So I always say we're focused on the P and the P, the policies and the practices. Just a couple of ideas about the breadth and depth of interest at Columbia in climate. You're going to hear from the Dean of the Climate School, obviously the central entity at the university that's focused on this topic. But there also are, there's interest in climate at almost all of the schools at the university, again, demonstrating this commitment to bringing different disciplines and expertise to try to tackle the issue. Certainly, I know in my own experience that wherever you go on campus, you'll find students who are interested in this topic, faculty, researchers, and others. And then I want to tell you a bit about how we are thinking of supporting, how we at Columbia Global are thinking of how do we support the Climate Hub at the Rio Center. Obviously, we want to bring the expertise of the university and others to support the efforts that are ongoing at the hub in Rio, whether it be in the educational endeavors or the research or events or building the partnerships and so on. So we want to sort of be the bridge that brings these assets and resources to the hub to enable achievement of all the aspirations for the Climate Hub in Rio at the Global Center. I think we'll also want to, because again, Columbia has multiple global centers, 11 of them around the world now, to maybe allow for to be a conduit to bring some of the experience and expertise from other parts of the world to inform the work at the Climate Hub in Rio. And also in a bidirectional manner, we also want to take the lessons that we're going to learn through the work in Rio to inform what's being done elsewhere. So we feel that this is going to be a wonderful opportunity to have this bidirectional learning, both from Rio, from Brazil, to inform the world, but also to bring some of the knowledge and experiences and successes and challenges from around the world to the work in Brazil. So I personally am very excited about the potential here, and I feel that this effort truly exemplifies the way to do things right. And we're working on this together with many of you in this room, and hopefully we'll also be able to expand the partnerships as we move forward on this very, very ambitious effort. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much, Waafa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm welcome here. I'm here on behalf of the Columbia Climate School, which is the first climate school in the United States, and we believe in the world. I serve as the interim dean for it, and on behalf of the school, I'm certainly thrilled to welcome you all, even though it's day 2, to the Brazil Climate Summit. I want to tell you a little bit about our school and what we're trying to do. We are working in the space of climate and sustainability and the environment broadly on a range of topics. We're really focusing on education at all levels. Obviously, as a university school, we're focused very much on graduate education, but we have our hands in undergraduate education. We're developing out executive education and even K through 12 for prior to the university experience. Our focus is really in the solution space. We have at Columbia an incredibly strong core of geoscientists who work in the basic sciences of climate, climate change, and obviously we have an enormous number of disciplinary experts who work in everything from economics to public health to business to law. But at the climate school, we're really about this transdisciplinary work that brings it together. We're grappling with topics like food security and water security, waste management and environmental policy, how that leads to circular economies, green economies, climate finance, what that has in implications for how we build out policies. What are we going to do with illegal permitting and in order to restructure our energy systems? What are those energy systems going to look like? How do we build better batteries? What are the materials needed to bring that about? How do we transfer technologies into the marketplace more effectively so they'll be adopted more rapidly so we can mitigate and adapt and be more resilient to the oncoming effects of climate change? It's really in that space that we're focused on. It's a lot about transdisciplinary partnership, working across disciplines and among peoples, and there's a lot of co-production of knowledge, and that has to extend from working at the international level, thinking about accords, being at COP, versus working at local levels and working with even indigenous communities to try to understand from them how climate is impacting them and what are the solutions we can work at together that will buffer them against its effects. I want to note that we're a global school. Our class right now is 40% international, our incoming class, we're pretty happy to announce, and I think that's only going to grow. We're building out a couple new programs that are going to launch in a couple years, new master's programs. One is a broad core subject matter on climate science that allows for both deep knowledge on the climate situation as well as movement into other spheres, so obviously that transdisciplinary initiative. Another one is one in which we're partnering with the business school to build out a degree in climate finance that I think will be very, very interesting. I want to say that it's because of our students that we're really able to have an impact. As a school, there's only a limit to what our faculty and researchers, there are quite a lot of us, even though we're in a bit of startup mode right now, can really do to impact the world. But where we exponentiate is by the training of students. We bring them in, we educate, they go out and they enter all sectors of the workplace, government, corporate, public, and so on. And they're the ones who are really going to be coming up with ideas that we never dream of. And it's by doing that that we really can double down, triple down, and exponentiate our impact on the world and help with this climate crisis. I think it's very fitting that we're here at Columbia University and the Climate School to discuss Brazil's opportunities and needs for grappling with the climate crisis. Brazil, in many ways, is central as a central player from the so-called Global South. As a steward at the Amazon basin, it's a natural leader for solutions dialogue, and I think it really can effectively call attention to many of the issues and problems that the world is facing writ large. I also want to say that we're really fortunate to work with the Columbia Global Centers and the Rio Center. I'm thrilled about our climate hub that's been born out in conjunction with Mayor Payas, I think I'm saying it okay, with the Columbia Global Climate Rio Hub. And with that, I just hope that we all can roll up our sleeves and really get down to work and do some good here. I wish you all well, and I hope this is a very successful summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. Jeff and Waafa, a pleasure to be with you here. Jeff, for reminding us there's a lot of work to be done on the basic science of climate change, although there's an assumption in the room yesterday that the science was pretty well worked out and it was a matter of implementation, but that's not really the case when you look at it from inside the university. And of course, the teaching function is so very important. And Waafa, thank you very much for everything you do in Columbia Global, including, and those of you who know Columbia as I do not take for granted the wonderful logistical support we've had, and it's all Waafa. I wanted to thank you in particular for that. It's made a major difference, I think, to all of us and to the success of our conversations here today. So that's it. Our theme is collaboration, universities, private sector, stakeholders. Our tool is the app. If you've want to be in touch with me, or with Waafa, with Jeff Shaman, just put a message on the app for us. And I'm asked by my colleagues and other parts of this complex university to remind you that we have a major Brazil event occurring next week during Climate Week We have scheduled to arrive on Monday afternoon, Minister of the Environment Marina Silva, and also for Finance Minister Fernando Haddad, among other luminaries from Brazil. That's Monday afternoon, 3 to 7, over at the great Columbia Teachers College. So I'll just end quickly on that note. Thank you again for your time. Very proud to be here. Congratulations, Luciana, Columbia Alumni Association, and the wonderful Columbia students. I hope you get a chance, each of you, to thank them for the great service they're providing to make this conference so successful. Thank you, everybody.